Good morning. First item of business this morning is a debate on motion number 6635 in the name of Ian Smith on tourism. Thank you. Call Rob Gibson, followed by David Whitten.
Thank you. Presiding Officer, the danger of this debate is that there's been so much hyperbole and so lack of evidence base across this country that we are going to get the whole picture that's gleaned from this debate skewed unless some facts are injected to it. So let's first of all look at the business rate situation. An additional 3,600 Scottish business properties are eligible for relief during these challenging times. Many independent hotels, B&Bs, guest houses and self-catering properties qualify for small business bonus scheme. Additionally, the targeted rural relief, which supports key services in rural communities, including hotels, has had these thresholds uplifted. Both these reliefs offer bill reductions of up to 100% for many hotels. We need to have a whole Scotland picture before we can decide whether the charges about the north east of Scotland or whatever stand. Also to note that valuations reflect room rates and occupancy levels, sales of food and alcohol. Overall sector rises are due to properties with increased occupancy and higher turnover, and the impact varies because of location, hotel type and turnover that has changed since the last revaluation in 2005. And I note the remarks of the Liberals saying that only Tory MSPs support the SNP's position. Well, I noticed that the FSB supported the position of the government in February, and that the Scottish Grocers Federation and also the CBI on these matters. And that's why I want to inject those into the debate in the short time which I have. CBI said on the 10th of February there were a number of welcome measures, such as the enhanced rates relief for small and rural businesses and new relief to encourage renewable energy generation, amongst other things, which I'm sure businesses in the countryside could take part. I don't have the time, sorry. In the skills area, we're talking about the situation which has been raised by the previous speaker. It is a fact that there are investments taking place. Indeed, the Burghfield Hotel School in Dornoch, a place which the Cabinet is going to visit in this summer, is training more chefs and hotel staff. And we note from People First and the Tourism Forum that there are still difficulties in recruiting trained chefs. 37% of businesses who recruited chefs in 2009 found vacancies difficult to fill. But there are colleges which are actually setting up schools to do that, and that's what North Highland College has done. No, I won't. So I think you've got to recognise that other places should take initiatives like that, and it might fill the gap. And it's not down to whether the government provides money for apprenticeships. These are colleges who are doing this work. So listen to some facts. When we move on to the subject of rates relief, has anybody, the Liberals or anyone else, asked the basis on which this is actually calculated? Are we going to have a debate actually about the realities, about whether we need to change the way in which this happens? A personal view of mine, but one that requires some reflection amongst some other people here. Now let's move on to the gathering. I would like to know what the Liberal Labour executive did to look at the business case put by the private company in the first place to set this operation up. Because from that time forward, the government at that time dealt with it as a private company, and it had a hands-off approach and now accuses this government of doing the same. Frankly, it is two-faced. In terms of Visit Scotland's change of leadership, yes, we've had a change of chair, and we've moved on to a situation where the board has assessed the way forward. A step change, Mike Cantley calls it. And I think I should quote the wise words of my colleague Chris Harvey, who, after the attempts to try and implicate John Swinney in having to micromanage Visit Scotland, he said in committee on the 16th of June, "I understand the separation of notions of personnel from notions of policy, and I am aware that your position, Cabinet Secretary, is bound by the need to distinguish between the two, and that the two should not be allowed to be confused by ministerial intervention at an inappropriate time." That is not hands-off. That is respecting the non-parliamentary group which Visit Scotland is and allows them to measure their activities. Presiding Officer, We've had a dose of gripe from the proposers of this motion today. It's time we had a dose of common sense.